All right, so you want to like really get a grip on how Bitcoin moves, like actually decode its moves. Well, today we're doing a deep dive into something called the wave trend to do just that.
Yeah, forget those crystal balls and all that. This is about looking for patterns, patterns that repeat themselves. And those patterns can potentially help you make smarter decisions, trading decisions.
So instead of just seeing, random peaks and valleys on a chart, the wave trend gives us a way to see where there might be buying opportunities and where we should maybe think about selling, right?
Exactly. Imagine like zones of different colors on those charts. Like green zones, green means go, right? Well, in this case, green is potentially a good time to think about buying.
Okay, so let's talk more about those green zones. Why are those green zones potentially good buying opportunities?
Well, here's the thing. Historically, we're looking back at the charts here. When Bitcoin has dropped down into those green zones, what we often see is that it's like a reset point. It's a chance for investors to kind of load up, you know, buy more Bitcoin at what might be a discount.
Kind of like a Bitcoin sale.
Exactly. Think about it. Back
Mhm.
in late 2018, early 2019, remember those days? Bitcoin had taken a pretty big dip, right? Well, guess what? It dipped right down into that green zone.
hmm
And then, well, what happened? It started climbing. And it kept climbing for a long time.
So if you had spotted that pattern back then, if you had seen that Bitcoin was in the green zone and thought, maybe this is a good time to buy.
You might have been feeling pretty good about that decision a couple of years later. But yeah, hindsight, it's always 2020, right? That's why it's so important to understand these patterns in real time as they're happening.
All right, so green zones, potential buying opportunities. Got it. What about those yellow zones? I'm guessing those are areas where you might want to, like you said, think about taking some profits.
Yeah, you got it. The yellow zones, that's where things can get a little bit, well, frothy. Historically, when Bitcoin has entered those yellow zones, it's often lined up with market tops.
Yeah.
Those periods where everyone's super excited, prices are going crazy. Sometimes those prices get a little detached from, what Bitcoin is actually worth.
Like at the peak of 2021, when Bitcoin was all over the news, everyone and their grandma was talking about it.
Exactly. That was right in the heart of a yellow zone. Remember, market tops, they're often driven by emotion. Everyone's afraid of missing out FOMO, right?
Yeah.
And that's when people tend to make, well, let's just say, not their best decisions.
Okay, we've got these zones, right? The green zones, the yellow zones. But then there's this line running through them, this white line. It's at the 24.5 mark. What's so special about that line?
Think of that line like a pivotal point. It's a key level that historically Bitcoin seems to really pay attention to.
Hmm.
Now, here's the interesting thing. It can act as both support and resistance. And that really just depends on, what the market is feeling that day.
Okay, support and resistance. Now you're going to have to break that down for me. Try to avoid any ocean metaphors. Okay, we've already got enough waves going on here.
All right. No more waves. So support, right? Imagine it like a safety net. When Bitcoin is in a bull market, when it's trending upwards, this white line, it often acts as a floor. It kind of prevents the price from falling too far, and it can even push the price higher.
So it's like Bitcoin hits that line, bounces back up, and then keeps going up.
Exactly, like a springboard. But here's where it gets even more interesting, okay? In a bear market, that white line, it can flip. It becomes a ceiling, a level that Bitcoin just can't seem to break through.
Wait, so the same line can be both a floor and a ceiling? That's kind of wild.
Yeah, it is. Understanding how this line behaves, it can give you some real clues about whether the market is strong or weak at that moment.
Okay, so we've got this picture in our heads. Green zones, yellow zones, a white line that likes to play both sides. But how does all of this connect to, the bigger picture of market structure?
Ah, that is the question, isn't it? Market structure. It's all about finding those underlying patterns, those support and resistance levels that have basically shaped how Bitcoin has moved over time. It's like connecting the dots because what's happening today, it might just be repeating something that happened a month ago, a year ago, maybe even years ago.
So it's about looking for, I don't know what to call them, historical rhymes, moments where Bitcoin seems to be, repeating itself in a way.
Precisely. And here's where it gets even more interesting because those patterns, they often go way beyond just what we see on the charts. They tie directly into human psychology. And let's face it, human psychology, that plays a huge role in how markets move.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that, the human side of all this. I mean, we've all felt it, right? That fear of missing out, that FOMO you mentioned. But how does that actually, how does that play out when you're actually trading?
All right, so imagine this, okay?
Mhm.
Bitcoin is on a tear.
Huh?
Like it is just blasting through those yellow zones we talked about. Everyone's talking about it. People are making money like overnight, it seems. And it's so easy to get caught up in all that.
Right.
To just throw your money in,
Yeah.
to buy at the top when the price is like totally crazy because you're afraid you're going to miss out.
Oh, yeah. I've been there. I've bought the overpriced coffee mug at the peak of the hype cycle.
Right.
Definitely been there.
We've all been there, right? But here's the other side of that. When fear takes over, when Bitcoin's dropping, dipping into those green zones, everyone's freaking out saying it's all going to crash, it's really hard to resist just selling everything, even if it means, selling at a loss.
So what we're really talking about is like recognizing those emotional moments, right? Those moments when our brain is telling us to just do something like really impulsive.
Yeah, yeah.
Easier said than done, though.
Oh, for sure. And that's where having a system, a framework like the wave trend we're talking about, that's where it can really help. It helps you to like take a step back for a second, look at the bigger picture,
Yeah.
and hopefully make a more rational decision, even if you're feeling, all those emotions.
It's like having that friend, right? That friend who tells you, do you really need those shoes?
Exactly. Or that 10th cup of coffee. Sometimes you just need that voice of reason. And sometimes, the market, it throws you a bit of a curveball. Remember we were talking about those double dip opportunities?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like a second chance to buy when the price is low.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes Bitcoin will dip down into that green zone, rally a little bit, and then dip again. It's almost like it's, testing the waters, seeing if there are enough buyers out there before it really makes a move.
Like it's giving you a second chance to buy at a discount.
Yes, exactly. And we saw this happen back in 2020. Bitcoin dipped down, bounced up a bit, then dipped again right back into that green zone, and then boom, huge bull run. Those who bought that second dip,
yeah,
they were feeling pretty good.
Okay, so we've got all these things happening, right? We've got the waves, the zones, that white line, and then all the psychology stuff mixed in. Where does this leave us right now? What is the market, whispering to you through this wave trend lens?
Okay, so right now, as we're recording this, Bitcoin is at a really interesting point. It just bounced off that 24.5 white line. Remember, that's our support resistance level.
Yeah.
And that bounce, it's created a lot of uncertainty in the market.
So it's like Bitcoin is standing at a fork in the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we don't know which path it's going to take. Now, if it breaks above that 24.5 line, like decisively breaks above it, that could mean it's heading towards, maybe the low 70K range.
Okay, that's the optimistic scenario. What if it hits that line and just like bounces right off it, like it's hitting a wall?
Yeah, well, that's not as good. That probably means we'll see more consolidation, maybe even another dip down to test those lower levels again.
So a lot depends on what happens at that 24.5 line. It's kind of like the whole market is holding its breath right now. But, even with all this uncertainty, even without knowing what's going to happen next, just having this framework, the wave trend, I don't know, it feels like we're not just wandering around in the dark anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about knowing for sure what's going to happen. Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
But it's about understanding the possibilities.
Yeah.
And making decisions based on, actual data and what's happened in the past and understanding how, people behave.
You said earlier that price levels, they can act as both support and resistance, right? We see that with the 24.5 white line. But you were also talking about something called retesting. What exactly is that?
Okay, yeah, that's a really important concept. Remember how we were saying that those price levels, they're like memory spots for the market?
Yeah, like Bitcoin's leaving a little note, like, hey, remember this price? We met here.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So retesting is like Bitcoin goes to a price, right? And then it rallies, goes up a bit, but then it comes back down to that same price again.
Yeah.
Like it's checking to see, hey, are things the same here as they were before?
So, okay, let's say Bitcoin, I don't know, it dropped to like 28,000 a few weeks ago. Then it went up to like 30,000. But now it's drifting back down to 28,000. That would be a retest of that 28,000 level.
Exactly. And here's why that's so interesting, okay? That retest, it can go one of two ways. It either holds strong at that level, right? Which would be support, and then it might bounce back up from there, or it fails. Like it tries to hold that level, but it can't. And that can mean more downside. The price could keep dropping.
So it's like a test. If the buyers show up at that price, they're like, nope, we're not going any lower. The price holds up. But if they're not there, or not enough of them,
It breaks down. Yeah, exactly. Those retests are like these little, I don't know, battles almost,
Mm.
playing out on the chart. You can see who's winning, the buyers or the sellers, just by how the price reacts at those levels.
Man, we've covered so much. It's amazing to me how much we can learn, how much insight we can get just from one indicator and from, really understanding how the market moves.
It's like anything else,
Yeah.
right? The more you learn about something, the better you understand it,
Yeah.
the better you can navigate it.
Instead of just looking at the price every day and freaking out, we can look for the bigger picture. Those waves, those patterns.
Yeah, and those patterns, like we were talking about, they often come from us, from how we behave, how we react.
Our emotions get involved. We make bad decisions sometimes. But hey, at least now we're aware of it, which hopefully means we'll make fewer of them going forward.
There you go. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Never stop learning.
Right. This has been awesome. So to everyone listening, as you're, on your Bitcoin journey, just remember, look for those waves, those patterns, understand those support and resistance levels, and keep your head on straight.
Don't let your emotions get the best of you.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, right? All right. Until next time, happy investing, everyone.